Tonight, we begin with a threat that has shaken the foundations of global power, a statement that Pentagon officials had feared, that diplomats had desperately tried to prevent, and that intelligence agencies had warned could trigger the unthinkable, a declaration that came not over months of escalation, not through diplomatic back channels, but in a single, stunning press conference in Beijing. 47 minutes that rewrote the rules of international relations, 47 minutes that drew a line in the sand between superpowers, 47 minutes that brought the world closer to World War III than at any point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. What China declared today was not a warning, it was not a diplomatic protest. It was an ultimatum. If the United States attacks Iran, China will enter the war, not with sanctions, not with condemnations, with military force, and Beijing's message to President Trump was delivered with a clarity that left no room for interpretation. Attack Iran, and the United States will be reading about its superpower status in history books. We have the power to push America back to the Stone Age, and we are prepared to use it. The world has changed tonight, and nothing will ever be the same. To understand the magnitude of what happened today, we need to understand the context. For months, tensions between Washington and Tehran have been escalating toward a breaking point. Iranian nuclear facilities have resumed operations that violate international agreements. Iranian proxies have attacked American bases across the Middle East. Iranian missiles have targeted commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and Iranian rhetoric has become increasingly apocalyptic. The Trump administration's response has been equally aggressive. Sanctions have been tightened to unprecedented levels. Military assets have been repositioned throughout the region, and the president himself has issued warnings that all options are on the table. But what set off alarm bells in Beijing 3 weeks ago was something different. American military planners began conducting exercises that Chinese intelligence identified as rehearsals for a comprehensive strike on Iran, not a limited operation, not a targeted assassination, a full-scale attack designed to destroy Iran's nuclear program, cripple its military, and potentially topple its government. China saw this coming, and China decided to act before it was too late. For years, Beijing has watched Washington use military force against nations that lacked great power protection. Iraq, Libya, Syria. Each time China protested. Each time China was ignored. But Iran is different. Iran is China's third largest oil supplier. Iran is a key partner in the Belt and Road Initiative. Iran is a strategic counterweight to American dominance in the Middle East. And China has decided that Iran will not become another Iraq, not this time, not ever. The statement came at 10 o'clock a.m. Beijing time. Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Wei stepped to the podium for what was scheduled as a routine press briefing. It was anything but routine, reading from a prepared text clearly approved at the highest levels of the Chinese government. Zhao delivered a message that will be studied by historians for generations. The People's Republic of China has observed with grave concern the military preparations being undertaken by the United States for an attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Let there be no ambiguity about China's position. Iran is a strategic partner of China. An attack on Iran is an attack on China's vital interests. If the United States proceeds with military action against Iran, China will not stand idle. China will provide Iran with full military support, including direct intervention if necessary. The room fell silent. Reporters who had been checking their phones looked up in disbelief. Zhao continued, "The United States believes it can attack any nation it chooses without consequence. This belief is mistaken. China possesses capabilities that the American military has not faced since 1945. We have hypersonic missiles that can sink American aircraft carriers. We have cyber weapons that can shut down American infrastructure. We have economic leverage that can collapse American markets. If the United States wants to test these capabilities, they are welcome to try." And then came the line that has dominated every headline since. President Trump should understand that if he attacks Iran, the United States will not be a superpower when this is over. Americans will be reading about their former greatness in history books. We have the power to push America back to the Stone Age, and we will use it. Without hesitation, the press conference ended. China had thrown down the gauntlet, and the world held its breath. The response from Washington was swift but notably measured. The White House issued a brief statement within 2 hours. The United States does not respond to threats. American foreign policy will be determined by American interests, not by ultimatums from Beijing. We urge China to reconsider this dangerous rhetoric. But behind that calm facade, sources describe an administration in crisis mode. Emergency meetings convened across the national security establishment. The Secretary of Defense huddled with military commanders at the Pentagon. The Secretary of State initiated urgent calls with allies in Europe and Asia. The CIA director briefed the President on Chinese military capabilities and intentions. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs reportedly told the president something that no commander-in-chief wants to hear. Sir, if China means what they said, our Iran plans need to be completely reconsidered, because here's the reality that Washington is now confronting. The United States has not fought a peer military adversary since World War II. Every conflict since then, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, has been against nations with vastly inferior military capabilities. China is different. China has the world's largest navy by number of ships. China has hypersonic missiles that American defenses cannot reliably intercept. China has cyber capabilities that could shut down American power grids, financial systems, and communications networks. China has nuclear weapons, an estimated 400 warheads and growing, and China has an economy so intertwined with America's that an economic war would devastate both nations. If China truly intends to fight for Iran, the calculus of any American attack changes completely. This is no longer about regime change in Tehran. This is about potential war between nuclear superpowers. Let me walk you through exactly what China is threatening and why military analysts are taking it seriously. First, naval warfare. Chinese anti-ship capabilities have been specifically designed to counter American aircraft carriers, the backbone of U.S. power projection. The DF-21D missile, nicknamed the Carrier Killer, can travel at speeds exceeding Mach 10 and strike moving ships at ranges of over 1,500 kilometers. The DF-26, an even more advanced system, extends that range to over 4,000 kilometers. American carrier strike groups operating in the Persian Gulf or the South China Sea would be within range of these weapons. And despite billions spent on missile defense, the Pentagon has never successfully tested intercepts against these systems in realistic conditions. Second, cyber warfare. Chinese hackers have penetrated virtually every major American institution, government agencies, defense contractors, power companies, financial networks. These intrusions have been detected and documented for years. What hasn't been documented is the full extent of the access they've achieved or the damage they could do if ordered to attack rather than merely spy. Intelligence officials have warned that China could shut down American power grids for extended periods, disrupt financial transactions, and compromise military communications. A cyber attack on this scale, coordinated with military action, could paralyze American society. Third, economic warfare. China holds over $800 billion in U.S. Treasury securities. A sudden sell-off could trigger a financial crisis that would make 2008 look minor. More importantly, China manufactures critical components for virtually every American industry: electronics, pharmaceuticals, machinery, consumer goods. Supply chain disruptions could cripple American manufacturing within weeks. And fourth, the nuclear dimension. China has traditionally maintained a minimal deterrent nuclear posture, enough weapons to ensure retaliation, but far fewer than the US or Russia. But recent satellite imagery suggests China is dramatically expanding its nuclear arsenal. New missile silos are under construction, new submarines are being deployed, new warheads are being produced. If a US-China conflict escalated to the nuclear threshold, the consequences would be existential. This is what China is threatening. This is what the United States must now consider. President Trump addressed the nation from the Oval Office at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The speech was somber, notably different from his usual combative style. He said, "Today, the Chinese government issued threats against the United States. These threats will not change American policy. We do not make decisions based on foreign ultimatums," he said. "But I also want to be clear with the American people. We are entering a period of heightened tension with a nuclear-armed adversary. This is serious, this is dangerous, and it requires careful, strategic thinking, not rash action." And he said, "My administration is committed to protecting American interests around the world. We are also committed to avoiding unnecessary conflict. We will be strong, we will be firm, and we will be smart. These words are notable for their restraint. No insults directed at Xi, no promises of imminent military action, no bellicose rhetoric about American invincibility. Instead, a president who seems to understand perhaps for the first time that he is facing an adversary who cannot be easily dismissed. The question is, what comes next? Here's what makes the situation even more dangerous. China's threat did not come in isolation within hours of Beijing's statement. Russia announced full support for China's position and warned that any attack on Iran would be considered an attack on the stability of Eurasia. North Korea declared it would stand with China against American aggression and placed its military on heightened alert. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed nation with close ties to both China and Iran, called for restraint while notably refusing to endorse American policy. Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua issued joint statements condemning American imperialism. A coalition is forming, not a formal alliance not yet, but an alignment of nations who see an opportunity to challenge American power. If the United States attacks Iran, it may not be fighting one nation. It may be fighting a coalition that spans from the Pacific to the Atlantic, a coalition that includes 3 nuclear powers, a coalition that controls critical resources, shipping lanes, and manufacturing capacity, a coalition that could fundamentally reshape the international order. This is the stakes. This is the danger. This is the world we are now living in. Analysts are now considering several scenarios for how this crisis evolves. Scenario 1, diplomatic off-ramp. The United States backs away from immediate military action against Iran. Negotiations resume. China's threat is never tested. Tensions remain high, but war is avoided. Scenario 2, limited action. The United States conducts a limited strike against Iranian nuclear facilities, carefully designed to avoid triggering Chinese intervention. China protests but does not follow through on military threats. A new, more dangerous equilibrium emerges. Scenario 3, Chinese bluff called. The United States attacks Iran comprehensively. China does not intervene militarily. Beijing is humiliated. American dominance is reinforced for now, but Chinese resentment festers, leading to future confrontation. Scenario 4, the unthinkable. The United States attacks Iran, China intervenes, a shooting war begins between nuclear superpowers, the conflict escalates beyond anyone's control, millions die, civilization as we know it is threatened. No one knows which scenario will unfold. But for the first time since 1962, the 4th scenario is plausible, and that alone should terrify everyone. What we're watching now is a test of everything. American credibility is being tested. Can the U.S. still act freely in the world, or has the era of unilateral American action ended? Chinese resolve is being tested. Will Beijing follow through on its threats, or is this nuclear-armed bluster? The international order is being tested. Will alliances hold, or will nations realign around new power centers? And humanity itself is being tested. Can great powers manage their rivalries without destroying civilization? These are the stakes, not just for Americans or Chinese, for everyone. Because if this goes wrong, if miscalculation leads to escalation, leads to catastrophe, there will be no winners, only survivors. Tonight, we've received several updates on the rapidly evolving situation. American military assets in the Pacific have been placed on heightened alert. Leave has been canceled for personnel at bases throughout Asia. Chinese naval vessels have departed ports along the eastern seaboard, their destinations unknown but their intent unmistakable. Diplomatic back channels between Washington and Beijing are reportedly active, with both sides attempting to find a way to de-escalate without losing face. The UN Security Council has called an emergency session for tomorrow, though any meaningful action will likely be vetoed. Oil prices have stabilized slightly at $165 per barrel, still historically high but below the immediate post-statement peak. And in Tehran, Iranian officials are celebrating what they see as a historic victory, the world's rising superpower standing with them against the world's current superpower. The crisis is not over, it may be just beginning, but for tonight at least, no shots have been fired, and that may be the best news we can hope for. As the night unfolds, the world watches and waits. In Washington, strategists are reconsidering plans that seemed certain just days ago. In Beijing, leaders are calculating whether they have gained an advantage or overplayed their hand. In Tehran, the regime savors protection it never expected to receive, and around the world, ordinary people are asking questions that should never have to be asked. Are we on the brink of war? Could nuclear weapons be used?